Hey everyone, how y'all doing? My name is Mateo and I am from Maschine Masters. Today, I'm going to show you one of the techniques used to get that hard auto-tune sound, or how many refer to it as dat auto-tune sound that we hear so often in today's music. Let's take a listen to what I'm going to be working with today. I'm going to play you a before and after of this particular hard tuning effect.
Your jealousy is too real, too real. You're telling me I'm too real, too real. Your jealousy is too real. You're telling me I'm too real, too real. Your team's been fading, we is the latest. My team been the greatest, we is the greatest. Your team been fading, we is the latest. My team been the greatest, we is the greatest.
So in this particular example here, I have a rapper who also sings, and this is the hook of the song, which he's singing in. Now, what I did in this particular instance to get this hard tune effect was using two tools. The two tools that I used were Revoice Pro and Auto Tune. Now, the reason why I used two plugins to get this particular effect is because in order to achieve a relatively clean sounding hard tune effect, autotune is very sensitive to vibrato, and if the singer didn't sing quite well in tune, to make the effect more effective, you really want to make sure that it's tuned before running it through autotune. Most people that do this will either use Revoice Pro, which is what I use, or Melodyne. The reason why people use Revoice Pro or Melodyne is because when you tune with Revoice Pro and Melodyne, they seem to have less of a tonal effect on the vocals that you're processing through it than Auto-Tune does. Now, I personally use Revoice Pro because I really like the sound of Revoice Pro, and when I say the sound, I mean the lack thereof. I find that it's more transparent than Melodyne. I can usually tell when people use Melodyne, not in instances like this because Auto-Tune overpowers that, but I generally prefer Revoice Pro. That's just a preference. Now, some of you may be asking, why not just use Auto-Tune's graph mode to manually tune the vocals before running it through Auto-Tune? That is a perfectly valid question. The thing about Auto-Tune is that it has a very signature tone to it, even in graph mode. I've found over the years that Auto-Tune just has this particular sound, and they know that they have this sound, and Terry's really rides it out. It's part of who they are, and that's totally cool. So if you use the graph mode in Auto-Tune and then process it through the auto mode, sometimes the Auto-Tune sound becomes too apparent and a little overbearing. So most people start off with something that sounds more transparent, like I said, either Melodyne or Revoice Pro, and then process it through the auto mode in Auto-Tune. Another thing about Revoice Pro and Melodyne is that they seem to handle notes transitioning from one to another much better than Auto-Tune does. I find Auto-Tune in the graph mode requires just a little more finessing, and Melodyne and Revoice Pro just seem to have it down just slightly more intuitive and easier to use. So that's another reason why Revoice Pro and Melodyne seem to be a more favored choice amongst a lot of engineers. Now, let's jump into manually tuning these vocals. To make everyone's life easier, it's always best for the singer to sing in tune, in the key of the song. Now, that won't always happen, which is unfortunate, but it's a reality. So, depending on how well your singer sings in key, this may make your job harder or easier. So fortunately for me, this particular rapper can sing pretty well in key, so tuning these vocals weren't that difficult. So I'm going to open up Revoice Pro now. And what I'm going to do here is make my selection of the vocals. and I'm going to import them into Revoice Pro. So now I have Revoice Pro open over here. Now, this tutorial is not specifically to learn how to use Revoice Pro. I'm just showing you that this is the tool that I use to manually do the tuning before I go into Auto-Tune. So I'm going to quickly make some adjustments to these vocals over here. Now, fortunately, Revoice Pro has this great auto function. So correct pitch, and let's see how that works out.
Your jealousy is too real, too real. Your jealousy is too real, too real. Your jealousy is too real. Your jealousy is too real, 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 too real.
So as you can see, I've only done the very first line. This can be a very daunting task, especially when you have to get every note really well on the pitch. Otherwise, you're going to get weird jumps in the auto tune. So I'm not going to show you the whole thing because you'll be here for a while, but I'm going to jump ahead and I'll show you the final result of the manual tuning of the vocals. All right, so I've jumped ahead, tuned the vocals, and now I'm going to play it back for you so you can hear it in tune. There wasn't too much for me to do, but it was a little, time consuming. Now we're going to listen to it tuned with Revoice Pro, and we shouldn't actually hear the tuning. It should just sound like it was sung properly.
Your team been fading, we is the latest. My team been the greatest, we is the greatest. Your team been fading, we is the latest.
Now let's get into auto-tune. So what I usually do with auto-tune, first off, is I find the key of the song. It is really important to know this. If you just set it to chromatic, auto-tune can slide in between some notes that aren't in the key and can sometimes just sound a little weird. So it's really important to get the key and the scale down properly. Usually the producers of the beats should include the key of the song. If they don't, ask them. If the producer doesn't know the key of the song, which would be unfortunate, what I do sometimes is I pull out my keyboard and I play along and riff around on the song. I can usually figure out the key like that. But just to make everyone's life easier, producers, please provide the key of the songs. The key of this particular song is 8 flat minor. So that means auto-tune will only snap to the correct notes in this key. Now, usually with input type, I usually set it to alto or tenor for male voices. Most men are in that vocal range. If you have a male with a really high voice or you're working with a female, you'll probably want to set it to soprano. That just makes it easier for auto-tune to recognize the type of vocal and it adjusts its algorithm so that it works properly. The next thing you're going to want to do is adjust your tracking. So this is supposed to be an exaggerated effect. So you want the tracking pretty high. Anywhere from, say, 60 to 100 is fine. Play around with it in that range to really find which one works for you. In this particular case, I put it to 70. I found that was like a happy medium. The other thing you're going to adjust in auto-tune is the retune speed. I typically have it slammed to its fastest just to get that effect. However, you can slow it down if the effect is a little too overbearing. Like I said, for this particular case, I have it set to the fastest. Now, in regards to everything else, you don't really have to touch anything else. So the main things are the key, the input type, the tracking, and the retune speed, specifically for this particular technique. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the two vocals, because I have two vocals for this hook. I'm going to play them with and without the auto-tune.
Your jealousy is too real, too real. You're telling me I'm too real, too real. Your jealousy is too real. You're telling me I'm too real, too real. Your team's been fading, we is the latest.
Great. So obviously that was pretty hard tuned. Like I said, for those of you out there, you can adjust it the way that you want it if you want it more subtle or not, but that's kind of the effect, you know? Now, because the vocals were already tuned beforehand, we're not getting major jumps in auto-tune, which is ideal. Now I'm going to play everything together with the beat, and we've got our final sound.
Your jealousy is too real, too real. You're telling me I'm too real, too real. Your jealousy is too real. You're telling me I'm too real, too real. Your team's been fading, we is the latest. My team been the greatest, we is the greatest. Your team been fading, we is the latest. My team been the greatest, we is the greatest.
So that right there is one particular technique used to get that hard tune sound. A lot of people just assume that it's just auto-tune, but really the way it works best is tuning your vocals first with a relatively transparent sounding tuning plugin like Melodyne or Revoice, and then processing it through auto-tune. I'm sure some of you are going to ask me to go into more detail of maybe Revoice or auto-tune, which I will gladly do in the future. It would just be too long of a tutorial video to do that in here. So in the future, keep an eye out for a tutorial on Revoice Pro for sure, and potentially auto-tune as well. Thanks again to all of you that checked out this tutorial. We really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions about what we covered in this tutorial, please feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Also, if you have any suggestions for future tutorials, also leave that in the comment section below. As always, please like and share this video and subscribe to Maschine Masters to keep up with all our latest tutorials. Thank you everyone, have a great day.